My new wife texted on our honeymoon night. Had to leave early. Family emergency. Then disappeared. I called her mom. What emergency? There was none. When I checked Find My iPhone and she was at my brother's apartment, I drove there at 2 a.m. and knocked. When my brother opened the door in a towel with her behind him, 29 male, work in corporate compliance as a forensic accountant. Married wife, 27 female, in a standard, nice wedding. The reception wrapped up around 11 p.m. and we took a car service to a luxury downtown hotel. We had a flight to Maui booked for 9 a.m. the next morning. By the time we checked into the honeymoon suite, we were both completely exhausted. Wife said she was going to take a long shower to wash out all the hairspray and makeup. I offered to go down to the hotel lobby to grab a bottle of champagne from the bar, since room service was running really behind. I was gone for maybe 20 minutes tops. I chatted with the bartender, paid, and took the elevator back up. I unlocked the door, and the suite was dead silent. No shower running. No music. Her wedding dress was still draped over the armchair, but her travel duffel bag was gone. I checked the bathroom, and it was empty. I pulled out my phone and saw a text message from her that had come through 5 minutes prior. It just said she had to leave early for family emergency and would call me later. I stared at the screen trying to make sense of it. We had just left our entire extended family an hour ago, and everyone was totally fine. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. My next move was to call mother-in-law. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding groggy. I asked her what the emergency was, apologizing for waking her up. Mother-in-law was just confused. She said she was in bed. Father-in-law was snoring next to her, and everyone had gone home safely. There was no emergency at all. I hung up, and a cold sort of logic took over my brain. I pay for our shared mobile plan, which means we share location data. I opened my phone's tracking app. The location for wife wasn't at a hospital or her parents' house. It was stationary at a residential complex across town. It was the apartment building where my brother, 32 male, lived. I left the champagne on the counter, grabbed my keys, and walked out of the hotel. The drive took 25 minutes. I didn't listen to the radio or panic. I just kept turning the facts over in my head, trying to find a rational explanation. Maybe she had a panic attack and needed to talk to family. But none of it really fit. I parked down the street and walked up to his building. I walked up the outdoor stairwell to the second floor. It was exactly 2:14 a.m. I knocked on the door with 3 solid, heavy knocks. I heard shuffling inside. The deadbolt clicked, and the door swung open. Brother stood there with water dripping from his shoulders and a white towel secured around his waist. He looked at me, and the color drained from his face instantly. Before he could even get a word out, a shadow moved behind him. Wife stepped into the hallway light. She was holding a crumpled t-shirt against her chest, and her hair was damp. We all just froze. The silence in that hallway was absolute. Brother recovered first. He put his hand on the doorframe, trying to block my view, and started rambling about how it wasn't what it looked like and that we should just talk. I didn't raise my voice. I just told him to move, pushed past his arm, and walked into the living room. Wife backed away, scrambling to pull the shirt over her head, refusing to look me in the eye. I asked her to explain the family emergency. She opened her mouth, but brother stepped between us, crossing his arms with this suffocating arrogance. He claimed she was having second thoughts, that she was terrified, and she just needed someone she could trust to talk her down. I asked if they both got naked to discuss it. Wife finally spoke up, her voice trembling but defensive. She blamed me. She said I was always so absorbed in my work and never listened to her, but brother actually listened, and that they didn't mean for this to happen. I looked around the apartment. Her travel bag was unzipped on the sofa. 2 empty wine glasses sat on the coffee table. This wasn't a sudden panic attack on our wedding night. This was a comfortable routine. I asked how long it had been going on. Brother scoffed, leaning against the wall, and confessed it had been 2 years. He went on a rant about how I always got the easy road with my degree, safe job, and house, while he always struggled. He said they loved each other but couldn't figure out how to stop the wedding without ruining everything. The math clicked into place for me. 2 years meant they had been sleeping together before she and I even got engaged. Being an auditor, I recognize a long-term fraud scheme when I see one. Brother is a manager at a local auto dealership, but he has severe gambling issues. He's always complaining about his debts and asking our parents to bail him out. Meanwhile, I make a very comfortable salary. I realized out loud that they didn't want to stop the wedding. They needed the marriage. Brother was broke and drowning in debt, and she married me just to get access to my accounts. I asked them if the plan was to siphon off cash to pay his bookies, wait a year, file for divorce, and demand alimony. Brother got aggressive and told me I owed them. He said I had hundreds of thousands in investments while he was dodging collection agencies, and that I owed her for wasting her time. Wife stepped forward, completely dropping the guilt and turning fiercely entitled. She told me that if I just gave them a clean break and a financial settlement, they'd walk away without making a scene. But if I tried to ruin them, she promised to make sure everyone thought I was an abusive, controlling husband. She smirked and asked who I thought a judge would believe. I looked at the woman I had married 24 hours ago, and I looked at the brother I grew up with. I didn't yell or throw anything. I just turned around, walked out the door, and instead of going back to the hotel, I drove straight to my house. I spent the next 4 hours freezing every single bank account, transferring my personal funds into a new, secure account at a different institution, locking my credit, and changing every password I owned. By noon the next day, the dirty trick started. Wife realized her debit card was declining and texted me furiously, demanding I unlock the accounts. I ignored her. I called a family law attorney and explained the situation. Because we were exhausted and she bailed before anything happened at the hotel, the marriage was unconsummated. My lawyer confirmed that marrying someone just to access their funds with zero intent of actually being in a real marriage qualifies for an annulment based on fraud. Wife refused to sign the annulment waiver. She hired a cheap lawyer and filed for a standard divorce, demanding spousal support and half the value of my house. Legally, a marriage of one day entitles her to absolutely nothing, but she was banking on the legal fees grinding me down. Then came the smear campaign. My mother called me, crying hysterically. Wife and brother had gone to my parents and spun a story that I was financially abusive, that I had trapped wife in the hotel room, and that brother had bravely rescued her. My mother pleaded with me to just give them some money to start over, saying they made a mistake, but they are family, and that I shouldn't destroy my brother over a woman. I told my mother never to call me about this again, and hung up. A week later, wife requested a meeting at a local coffee shop to settle things out of court. I agreed. I live in a one-party consent state regarding audio recordings, so I placed my phone face down on the table with the voice memo app running. Wife sat across from me looking entirely too pleased with herself. She slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a demand for $50,000. She told me to sign an agreement to transfer the funds, and she'd sign the annulment. I calmly asked her what would happen if I didn't. She leaned in and lowered her voice. She told me that if I didn't pay, she would go to the police the next day and file a report saying I hit her in the hotel room. She threatened to file a restraining order, pointing out that an accusation of domestic violence would completely destroy my career in corporate compliance and that the state would strip my licensing. She called $50,000 a cheap price to save my career. I clearly stated that she was fabricating abuse to extort me, making sure the microphone picked up every single syllable. She smoothly corrected me, saying she was just securing her future, and since I had the money, she wanted it. I took the paper, folded it, put it in my pocket, and walked out. I went home and opened my laptop. I had the recording of the extortion, but now I needed to deal with brother. A year ago, he had asked me to co-sign a loan. He sent me his W-2s, bank statements, and tax returns. I never co-signed, but I kept the files. I spent the weekend applying my forensic accounting skills to his documents and noticed a glaring pattern. Cash deposits in his personal accounts routinely matched missing inventory values from his dealership's public sales records. He wasn't just losing money to gambling. He was actively embezzling from his employer to cover his tracks. I compiled a comprehensive, anonymous dossier detailing the exact discrepancies, dates, and bank routing numbers. I mailed it directly to the corporate auditing department of the auto group that owned his dealership. The legal system moves slowly, but when it hits hard. I took the audio recording to my lawyer, who immediately contacted the district attorney's office. Extortion is a serious crime, and because wife had laid out a clear threat to fabricate a crime to obtain property, the police opened an investigation. 3 months passed. I just lived my life quietly, ignoring the harassing texts from brother and the pleading voicemails from mother. On a Tuesday afternoon, wife was served with my civil suit for an annulment based on fraud, which included a transcript of our coffee shop conversation submitted into the public court record. 2 hours later, detectives showed up at the real estate office where she worked as a receptionist. They arrested her for extortion right in front of her coworkers. She was fired that exact same day. Brother's downfall was even worse. The corporate auditors at his dealership tore his department apart. They found over $85,000 in embezzled funds. Because the theft crossed state lines via wire transfers to his offshore betting accounts, it became a massive federal issue. 4 months after the wedding, brother was arrested at his apartment. Their entitlement completely shattered. Wife called me from a prepaid phone, sobbing uncontrollably. She begged me to talk to the DA, saying brother was looking at prison time, and she was completely broke. She offered to sign whatever I wanted, if I just made the criminal charges go away. I didn't say a single word. I simply ended the call and blocked the number. The family court judge granted my annulment. The marriage was declared legally void from its inception. I kept my house, my assets, and my peace of mind. She was ordered to pay my legal fees, which she couldn't afford, resulting in a heavy lien against any future earnings she might have. Wife ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge of coercion to avoid jail time. She received 3 years of probation, mandatory community service, and a permanent criminal record that effectively prevents her from working in any corporate setting ever again. Brother didn't have a defense at all. The paper trail I provided to his employer was bulletproof. He took a plea deal for 36 months in a state penitentiary and a restitution order that will garnish his wages for the rest of his life. My parents were devastated. Mother tried to blame me for tearing the family apart, claiming I should have just paid them and walked away quietly. I told her that protecting criminals makes you an accomplice, not a peacemaker, and I haven't spoken to them since. Looking back, the hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing that the people closest to you can look you right in the eye and plot your total ruin with a smile on their face. Trust is a vulnerability, and I only survived this mess because I trusted the data over their lies. If you enjoyed seeing an auditor balance the books on betrayal, hit that subscribe button before your own secret sibling romance gets exposed in an audit.